Hi, my name is Jeff Pfeiffer. I'm with the Lopez Law Group. I'm the personal injury attorney here at the office. Welcome to our podcast where we try to cover a lot of common questions that clients give us throughout their personal injury case that we would kind of hope to give answers to you before you ever walk in the door. That's kind of the purpose of our podcast. And one of those questions that I get all the time, especially towards the end of a case, and sometimes at the beginning, is just how much is my case worth? How much money will I be looking at? How much am I going to take away from this? Is it even going to be worth my time? Everybody sees the billboards on the interstate that say $1 million, $3 million, $10 million verdict. And unfortunately, a lot of people, they see that and they think that that's the normal settlement range for a personal injury case. Unfortunately, the reality is that is the outlier. That rarely happens. I probably would say that in the last 7 to 10 years that I've been working at a law firm, I've rarely seen cases settle for more than $1 million. It rarely happens. The way that you typically value a settlement in a personal injury case is what kind of damages do you have? What are your medical bills? What are the outstanding medical bills? Are you being recommended for a surgery? Have you had any sort of injection therapy? The settlement range for a case where there's just chiropractic care and you've had a couple MRIs is going to be vastly different than somebody who's been paralyzed or is in a wheelchair as a result of an accident. They're looking at not only the short-term medical costs, but they're also looking at the long-term medical costs. How much money are you going to have to expend over the rest of your lifetime to take care of the injuries that you suffered? And obviously the answer to that question for somebody who's been put in a wheelchair is a lot more money than somebody who has a strain or a sprain in their neck or their back and had to go to a chiropractor for a couple of months and got some massages and is starting to feel better. If somebody is going to be in a wheelchair for the rest of their life, there are costs associated with that, and a life care planner can step in and look at that and tell somebody how much they may need over the next 20, 30, 40, 50 years of their life, depending on when they get injured. Those are the cases that typically result in settlements of millions of dollars. Outside of that, your normal run-of-the-mill personal injury case, if somebody promises you that they can get you $1 million for a general, auto accident with a strain and a sprain, it is lying to you. That is just not something that normally happens. If obviously their settlement value will change significantly if you're recommended for an operation. If you need a surgery because of a rear end collision or because of a fall, and the doctors are saying that injury was caused as a result of that automobile accident or a result of that fall, then at that point, your case is going to be worth more. And even in that situation where there may be a surgery that's scheduled and you may undergo that operation, you're probably only looking at a couple of $100,000. The other thing that people don't really realize is that to answer the question about how much is my case worth, I also have to figure out how much insurance coverage is available. If there's only $10 or $20 or $25,000 available to you because the person that hit you only has $25 or $10,000 on their policy, then that may be all that you're limited to as far as your treatment goes. It's a different story if you get hit by an 18-wheeler and you have a commercial policy that's in place and they have $1 million, then insurance will step in, and if you have one of those injuries where you've been recommended for a surgery, there is hundreds of thousands of dollars available to take care of you in case you need that operation. But typically, for most people who are out on the road, they don't carry $1 million policy. They may carry a $10,000 policy. They may carry a $50,000 policy. They could carry a $100,000 policy. But you have to make sure that within the personal injury case, your treatment and what you're being recommended for is commensurate with how much money you have available to take care of your damages. You obviously are not going to be able to have a $150,000 operation if somebody only has a $10,000 policy. It's just that the math doesn't work in that situation. So it's dependent on what kind of injuries do you have, how much treatment are you going to need, but case value is also dependent on what kind of policy are we looking at. Does the person have sufficient insurance coverage to compensate you for the injuries that you've suffered? And then, one of the other things that you have to consider when you're talking about a personal injury case and just the ultimate value is, to what extent are you willing to go to the doctor and do those things? Because that is part of you have to go to a doctor and be able to show that you've actually suffered true injury. That does factor into the equation as to how much is my claim ultimately worth. If you go to a hospital and then you never follow up with any other doctor or physician, at that point it doesn't make sense from a value standpoint, that the insurance company just doesn't see that you're injured and that you're continuing to treat with a doctor that that on the face of it doesn't look like you've been injured because you haven't been going to a physician. So all of that stuff factors into the equation. How much money are we talking about on an insurance policy? What kind of injuries have you suffered? Is there enough money on that insurance policy to take care of those injuries? So not every case is worth $1 million, unfortunately. Everybody wishes that it was, but that's just not the reality of the situation. We're talking about your personal injury case and how much you may get out of that. But if you're ever involved in an auto accident and you need help and you have a question like that, I've been in an accident, what is my case worth? I'm injured, how much am I going to be able to recover for this? Those are questions that I can answer for you. If you are injured and you want to reach out to the Lopez Law Group, I'd be more than happy to sit down with you and kind of go over the facts of your case and see if there's anything that we could do.